Germany is planning to burn more coal, the most polluting fossil fuel, as Russian cuts to gas exports threaten shortfalls. Berlin says it must limit the use of gas. This follows an announcement by Russia's Gazprom saying it would slash supplies through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, apparently because of technical issues. EU officials believe Russia is punishing countries in the region for supporting Ukraine. Many European nations have signaled they will likely burn more coal as they reduce their reliance on Russian gas. Berlin has managed to cut its dependence on Moscow's gas to 35% from 55% since the start of the war. The use of coal, however, is taking the country further away from its climate mission to phase out the fossil fuel by 2030. And Trent Murray joins us live from Berlin. Trent, Germany still sticking to its 2030 coal exit target. How can it possibly do that? Is reverting to coal power not a step back in efforts to slash emissions?
Well, I think it will certainly make things more difficult, and I think it's almost a textbook example of how targets set for the longer term can be threatened by crises in the shorter term, and that is really what we are seeing. Effectively, the German government is now scrambling to try and come up with a solution to the fact that Russia has significantly cut gas supplies to the country. There's some concern they may go further and cut them off entirely, like they've done to other countries like Poland and Bulgaria in recent months. And so from a German government perspective, they really don't have many good choices here, and that is why they are looking at significantly increasing the amount of coal that is burned effectively to try and keep the lights on. Now, the reason they are doing this is they are saying they want to essentially strip back all of the gas-fired power generation in the country, or as much of it as they can, in order to save that gas and put it into storage tanks for the winter. Right now, gas storage is at about 56% nationally in national tanks, but they say that is too low for the winter. And if we go into the winter with it below 60%, things could be very tight. So they're trying to preserve as much of that gas as possible, not use the gas for using electricity now in the grid, and instead burn more coal. But of course, it is a controversial decision given the climate targets. The government says they can still hit them, but they are desperately trying to find other sources of energy so they don't have to continue relying on coal kind of winter after winter.
Trent, another source might be renewable energy, that kind of generation. But is that a realistic option, at least in the immediate term, given how long it takes to get this kind of infrastructure up and going?
Well, I think it's one of the options, and what we are seeing is the government, especially in particular regions, try to slash what's known as green tape, that bureaucracy and planning laws that can sometimes slow down the building of new renewable energy sources, I should say, like wind turbines. I mean, for example, in Germany's biggest state, Bavaria, they recently changed the law to make the amount of space between a township and a wind turbine smaller so you can build more across the land. But it does take time, as you say. One of the other things that the German government is doing desperately is to try and build some liquid natural-fired gas terminals off the North Sea coast. Right now, the country can't accept LNG because it just doesn't have the facilities on the coast to unload it from those specialist ships. We know the government has been kind of running around the Middle East, if you will, trying to strike deals with countries like Qatar to get LNG here, but they also then need to build the terminal infrastructure to unload it from the ship, and that is what they're working on right now. Of course, the other big one, and I think this probably, really is a question that many are asking, is the question of nuclear. Germany does still have 3 nuclear power plants. Some are saying maybe you should extend their life. Well, I've just spoken to the Ministry for Energy here to see whether that's being considered, and they say an extension would make only a very limited contribution to solving the current problem, and therefore they don't extend those life of those plants beyond December 2022.
Thanks so much for that. Trent Murray in Berlin.